Have Toronto real estate prices gone from bad to worse, and are we now at a critical juncture in that market's future?
The definitive guide on how to manage your credit. Product, penalty, price in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right.
Welcome back. Today we're discussing the Toronto real estate market and the critical juncture that we're at in the future of that market, because things seemingly have gone from bad to worse. After a summer that seemed like things were cooling off, it turns out that September was a record month from a price standpoint for the Toronto real estate market, with housing prices hitting a number that they have never seen before, and with the number of active listings following quite substantially. And that's what we're going to discuss today. But before we get into it, do me that favor and hit that subscribe button and hit that like button. It does me a huge favor for the progress of this channel, and I would very much appreciate it if you did that. And also, don't forget, we're still giving away $5,000 when we hit that 25,000 subscriber mark. So go ahead and click that subscribe button and let's get into the video. So let's jump right into the headlines here. Toronto home prices hit a new record with July supply at a critical juncture. And what do they mean by this? Well, quite frankly, the amount of supply in the Toronto real estate market is, for the very first time since I started doing these update videos, at a point where I would say that it is critical. It is very, very low, especially compared to last year. And we all know what the numbers looked like in September, October, and November last year when we saw huge price increases and huge demand in that market. So this is getting really, really interesting. And, you know, I think there's some things going on here that we need to talk about. First and foremost, if you're a person who's bought a house in Toronto in the last year or two, you are probably in the position of going, I don't ever want to sell this thing, because if I do, I'm afraid that I'll miss out on future gains. So what that's leading to is this situation where now we've gone through all the pent-up buyer demand, but now we're getting to a point where sellers are becoming less inclined to want to put their houses on the market because of the high growth that they've seen over the last couple of years in those values. So it's really an interesting point. And if we go ahead and we take a look at the numbers here from the Toronto Real Estate Board, you can see that with respect to new listings, and it's way down here on the bottom right, I'm actually going to have to pop myself out of the screen here so you can go and see. And if you take a look at active listings, last year at this time, there was 18,000 listings. Now there's 9,000 listings. That's down almost 50%. And that's alarming, because with less listings and even just a similar amount of buyers to last year, what that means is we're entering territory where we could see massive bidding wars once again. So this is getting really, really scary from a market perspective. As you can see, compared to last year, we have more sales activity this year in September of 2020, less sales activity. But again, combined with that lower inventory, we're seeing a difference in the balance of the market. We're seeing this position where we are very much turning to a seller's market because of the low amounts of inventory. And if you take a look at the TREB MLS average price, you can see we are now bumping up well over 1.136 million. Now, interestingly enough, I haven't gone and looked at the numbers in Vancouver quite yet, but this is very, very, very much approaching where Vancouver numbers are. And just to take another quick look and look at some of the graphs here and some of the stats, if we go ahead and we take a look at sales, obviously we're seeing sales in 2021 being well above the 2019, which is the green, and the 2018 numbers. We're seeing that pretty consistently across the board. Not necessarily as high as last year, but again, with that limited amount of supply, that could cause issues with housing prices, and we could see even more pressure, even though there are less buyers there available to purchase those houses. We take a look at new listings. This is where it gets interesting, because at the beginning of the year, there was significantly more listings than in any other previous of the last couple of years. And then we start to get into May, and listings look pretty comparable to 2018, 2019. Again, June, pretty comparable. All of a sudden in July, less new listings, August, less new listings, September, less new listings. And all of a sudden it seems like we're in a market where people just don't want to put their houses on the market. And again, the low supply could lead to a very critical juncture in this market where if there is not enough supply to meet the demand, we could see even more higher prices. And the Liberal government obviously campaigned on the promise that they would make housing more affordable for first-time homebuyers. I don't know how they go ahead and do that because obviously a single-family home is well out of the price point for a first-time homebuyer. It's just not something that they're going to be able to do because they either need a $200,000 down payment or several $100,000 a year in combined annual income. So I'm not sure how they're going to make this happen other than just hitting the problem right where it needs to be hit, and that is by creating more supply. And right now, the TREB numbers are showing us that supply is one of those issues that isn't going away. We need more houses built so that the prices come down or at least level out so that first-time homebuyers can afford it. Now, one thing, by the way, that I want to mention is if you're looking at getting into the market and you're looking at being a first-time homebuyer, you can get my book that helps set you up for the future of what it looks like Canada is going to look like here with respect to finances and mortgage rates, because having cash on hand is going to be something that is very, very important as we look towards higher interest rates and higher inflation and so on and so forth. So I'm offering this book for the first time for free at mortgagemillionaire.ca. You can go ahead, grab that book there, and all you have to do is pay the shipping and handling to get it to you. It shows up usually in 7 to 10 business days. And, I sincerely hope that people are thinking now, especially with the potential for rising interest rates, about how they're going to prepare themselves in the event of a recession or job loss or all of those other things. But getting back to the Toronto real estate market, this is just something that I really, really think people need to be paying attention to. I'm not sure how sustainable this is for the long term, but this is the first time, I've looked at these charts and gone, I'm really, really, really concerned with what's happening in the Toronto real estate market with the limited amount of supply that is there. You can see average resale home prices has been quite high for the last year. It's continued to be well above what it was previously. If we go and take a look at the sales trends, yeah, it's come down a little bit, but still quite high compared to previous years. So there's obviously a lot going on here and a lot that people need to think about if they're entering the Toronto real estate market. And a few things that I'm going to recommend is, first and foremost, if you're entering that market with the variability that is happening in that market, I can't recommend in good conscience that anybody take a 5-year fixed rate with a big bank or even a monoline lender if they can avoid it. The key thing here for the next few years is going to be having flexibility. So if the market does crash or something happens and you find that you need to leave that market, you aren't giving a bunch of your money to the bank in the form of a payout penalty. By the way, a significant amount of Canadians end up leaving their mortgage in the first 5 years. It is almost 60%. And people always think, well, I can port my mortgage, save on the penalty and so on and so forth. But when you are found in a position where you have to port your mortgage to move it somewhere else, or you have to be faced with that penalty, basically the bank can charge you whatever they want on whatever new money that you borrow. And that becomes a problem because you don't have the ability to leave. So the key thing going forward is going to be flexibility. That's why we're recommending to most of our clients that they take variable rate mortgages. Aside from the $2,500 to $3,500 in savings on a $500,000 mortgage that you're getting on a variable rate right now, you also get that flexibility of lower payout penalties and basically a significantly better mortgage. And if you aren't looking at variable and you just absolutely have to have a fixed for your peace of mind, then we're looking to what we call monoline lenders. These are lenders that specialize in mortgages only. They only deal in one thing. They can't skate on their branding and their reputation and their marketing budget. So they actually have to have a better overall product, which means better prepayment privileges than a lot of the big banks. It means lower penalties, and it means more flexible mortgages. By the way, in 2020, March of 2020, when interest rates went from 2.7 to basically 1.4 overnight, there was one type of borrower that we were able to help get a lower interest rate if they had a 5-year fixed. And that was the type who was dealing with the A+ type lenders that are monoline lenders. Anybody who had a big bank 5-year fixed was pretty much stuck at the interest rate they were stuck at because the penalties were so high and they didn't have the ability to move. Yes, there are some people that moved and got a lower interest rate. One of the things that we see all the time is that when people do the calculations to get a lower interest rate, they double calculate the interest and they include it with the savings on the payment and the savings in principal. And basically, when you have a lower interest rate, the interest savings are applied to your lower payment and your lower principal. And therefore, that is how you calculate it. What we saw is a lot of people adding the two together. So the lower payments and the lower principal balance remaining, and adding that to the savings on the interest rate that showed on the calculator. And it basically double counted the savings and interest. So they thought they were getting a deal. And in reality, they just paid a really big amount over and above what they should have in order to refinance into a lower interest rate. So here's the reality of it. Treb's market, a little bit crazy. I have a feeling we're about to go higher in prices. I have a feeling that if you're buying in that market, you're going to want to make sure that you're putting some money aside by taking advantage of low interest rates and specifically low variable rates. Don't just take a low variable rate and then make the payment and then spend all the other money. You have to have a plan to put the money aside, invest it, and make sure that you're saving it for the long term in the event that interest rates do start to go up and in the event that there is some sort of recession or some sort of correction in the housing market. Again, the last thing you want to do is find yourself 5 years down the road or 3 years down the road or 2 years down the road where you have to give a significant amount of your equity to the bank in the form of a payout penalty. So if you found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell. Please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And don't forget about that race to 25,000 subscribers. We're almost at 18,000 subscribers. In fact, I think we just crossed over it. And if we didn't, we'll be there shortly, but we're getting closer and closer to that 25,000 and that moment where we're going to give $5,000 away. And I sincerely hope that you, yes, you who made it to the end of the video, I hope you're one of the winners. Cheers.